Arc Romance Dawn. A long time ago, Roger the Pirate King achieved great wealth, fame, and power. Before he was publicly executed, he told everyone that his treasure was hidden somewhere. This inspired many pirates to set out in search of that treasure, starting the Great Pirate Era. 11 years later, the red-haired pirates arrived at a village called Fuchsia, where they met a boy named Luffy. To prove he wanted to join Captain Shanks's crew, Luffy even cut his face below the eye to show his courage. The pirates and Luffy went to the bar, where they had fun, ate, and drank. Luffy asked Shanks to let him join the crew, but Shanks refused. During this time, some bandits showed up, and after an argument, their leader, Higuma, left. Luffy got angry because Shanks didn't fight back and decided to confront the bandits himself. As Shanks tried to stop Luffy, he noticed something strange. The boy's arm stretched like rubber. The pirates realized that the devil fruit they had stolen, the Gomu no Mi, had gone missing. Luffy confessed that he ate the fruit during the commotion. Shanks explained that Luffy's body was now made of rubber, but he would never be able to swim again, which made Luffy worried. Sometime later, the red-haired pirates set off on another adventure. Luffy, now used to his rubber body, was captured by the bandits when he tried to fight them again. Shanks returned to save Luffy, and his crew easily defeated the bandits. Higuma, the leader, escaped with Luffy to the sea, where he threw the boy into the water. A giant sea monster appeared and ate Higuma, then went after Luffy, but Shanks saved him at the last second, scaring the monster away. Before leaving, Shanks said goodbye to Luffy and gave him his straw hat, asking him to return it when he became the Pirate King. 10 years later, Luffy set out on a small boat, but ended up getting caught in a whirlpool. He climbed into a barrel and was picked up by the pirate Alvida's ship, where he met Kobe, a boy who was forced to work for her. Together, they escaped and arrived at an island called Shellstown. There, Luffy heard about a pirate hunter named Zoro, who was imprisoned by the Marines. Luffy decided to rescue Zoro and recruit him for his crew. After fighting the Marines, including Captain Morgan and his son Helmeppo, Luffy and Kobe freed Zoro. Zoro agreed to join the crew, and they set off together. Meanwhile, Kobe achieved his dream of joining the Marines and promised that one day he would hunt Luffy down, thanking him for defeating the corrupt Morgan. Arc Orange Town. The story begins with Luffy and Zoro sailing at sea, lost and very hungry. Luffy saw a bird flying and tried to catch it for food, but the bird was huge. It swallowed Luffy and flew away. Zoro tried to follow Luffy by rowing, but was interrupted by 3 pirates who tried to rob him. Zoro defeated them, and they told him a girl had stolen from them. These pirates were part of Buggy's crew, but Zoro didn't know who that was. Then the scene shifts to Orange Town. Luffy escapes from the bird and meets Nami, a thief. Nami uses Luffy as bait to get close to Buggy. She ties Luffy up and hands him over to Buggy, who locks him in a cage. Later, Nami pretends to join Buggy's crew to steal his treasure. Everything goes smoothly until Buggy asks her to prove her loyalty by eliminating Luffy. At that moment, Zoro appears and saves Luffy and Nami. He fights Buggy and cuts him into pieces, but Buggy reveals that he ate a devil fruit that allows him to separate his body into pieces and stay alive. One of Buggy's hands stabs Zoro with a dagger. Despite that, Luffy, Zoro, and Nami manage to escape by firing Buggy's cannon at him and his crew. After a big battle between the 2 pirate crews, the Straw Hats win. Buggy is separated from his crew, and Nami decides to join Luffy as their navigator. And so, they set out together for more adventures at sea. Arc Syrup Village. The Straw Hats arrive at Syrup Village and meet Usopp, a boy who dreams of becoming a great warrior of the sea. Luffy likes Usopp's courage, and they become friends. During the adventure, they discover that the pirate Kuro was disguised as Kaya's servant, a friend of Usopp, and he planned to steal all her wealth. Luffy and his friends fight Kuro and his crew to protect Kaya and stop him from taking her money. After the battle, Luffy invites Usopp to join the crew. As thanks, Kaya gives them a ship called the Going Merry. With a new friend and a new ship, the Straw Hats leave Syrup Village to continue their journey toward the Grand Line. Arc Baratie. Luffy, Zoro, Nami, and Usopp continue their journey and meet Johnny and Yosaku, two of Zoro's bounty hunter friends. After talking with them, Luffy realizes the crew needs a cook. Johnny and Yosaku then tell them about a floating restaurant called Baratie in the middle of the ocean. When they arrive at Baratie, they have a small run-in with a marine officer named Fullbody. Sanji, the assistant cook, almost injures him after he insults the restaurant's food. Shortly after, a pirate named Jin, who was being held captive by Fullbody, shows up at the Baratie asking for food. Even though he's mistreated and thrown out, Sanji secretly gives him a meal, saving him from starvation. Despite Sanji's kindness, Gin tells his captain, Don Krieg, about the Baratie. Don Krieg decides to attack the restaurant to take control and rebuild his fleet. The Straw Hats confront Krieg and his crew, but the battle is interrupted when Krieg's ship is sliced in half by Dracula Mihawk, the greatest swordsman in the world. Zoro, wanting to become the best swordsman, challenges Mihawk but is defeated. However, Mihawk is impressed by Zoro's courage and spares his life, allowing him to grow stronger to face him again in the future. After vowing to never lose again, Zoro, Usopp, and Johnny set off to find Nami, who had run away. Luffy and Sanji stay at the Baratie to fight Don Krieg. After a tough battle, they manage to defeat Krieg. The cooks at the Baratie begin criticizing Sanji's food on purpose, hoping to motivate him to join Luffy's crew, as they knew he couldn't spend the rest of his life at the restaurant. With many tears, the cooks say goodbye to Sanji, and he, Luffy, and Yosaku set off for Arlong Park. Arc Arlong Park. The story begins right after the Baratie arc, with Luffy, Sanji, and Yosaku heading to Arlong Park on a small boat. Johnny and Yosaku had noticed that Nami seemed interested in Arlong's wanted poster, so they believed she was headed there. Nami arrives at Arlong Park with the Going Merry and encounters a boy trying to attack Arlong in revenge for his father's death. Nami slaps the boy, gives him some money, and tells him to leave. Soon after, we are introduced to Arlong and his crew, and it is revealed that Nami is part of the Arlong Pirates. Zoro, Usopp, and Johnny also arrive on the island. When two fishmen spot them, Usopp and Johnny flee, leaving Zoro to be captured. Usopp ends up being attacked by the same boy from earlier, who mistakes him for a fishman, but a woman named Nojiko appears and helps Usopp. Meanwhile, Luffy, Sanji, and Yosaku encounter a giant sea cow on the way. After fighting it, the sea cow pulls their boat all the way to the island. At Nojiko's house, she reveals that she is Nami's adoptive sister and shares part of Nami's life story. Zoro, on the other hand, learns at Arlong Park that Nami seems loyal to Arlong. He escapes, defeats the fishmen, and heads back to the park to rescue Usopp, who had been captured. When Nami arrives, she pretends to stab Usopp and throws him into the sea. But later, we discover that she didn't really hurt him. She only did it to fool the fishmen. Usopp survives and tells the truth to Luffy and the others. Meanwhile, the Marines, led by Captain Nezumi, go to Nami's house and steal all the money she had saved to buy her village's freedom. Realizing that it was all a lie, the villagers decide to attack Arlong, but Nami tries to stop them. In despair, Nami starts hurting herself, but Luffy arrives, puts his straw hat on her head, and promises to help her. Luffy, Zoro, Usopp, and Sanji then head to Arlong Park, where they face Arlong and his fishmen. The battle is tough, but Luffy manages to defeat Arlong, freeing the island. After the victory, the villagers throw a party to celebrate. Nami gets a new tattoo of a tangerine with a pinwheel, replacing Arlong's mark. The next day, Johnny and Yosaku say goodbye to the Straw Hats. As the crew prepares to leave, they realize Nami hasn't shown up. Suddenly, she runs toward the ship, revealing that she stole money from the villagers as a farewell prank. Everyone gets mad, but she smiles and sets off with her friends for new adventures. Arc Loguetown. The adventure begins with the Straw Hats relaxing on the Going Merry ship. Nami is reading the newspaper and finds a flyer saying that Luffy now has a bounty of 30 million berries. Luffy gets very excited, but the other crewmates become worried. Soon, Zoro sees an island in the distance, and Nami explains that it's Loguetown, the place where the famous pirate Gold Roger was born and captured. Since this is the last stop before the Grand Line, the crew decides to go there to buy some supplies. In Loguetown, Zoro buys new swords to replace the ones broken by Mihawk. He also meets a marine named Tashigi, who looks a lot like his friend Quina. Meanwhile, Sanji buys a huge fish, Usopp buys ammunition and goggles, Nami gets new clothes, and Luffy goes to visit the place where Gold Roger was executed. Suddenly, Alvida and Buggy appear and capture Luffy, tying him up in the same place where Gold Roger was executed. Zoro and Sanji rush to rescue Luffy, while Nami and Usopp hurry to prepare the ship because a storm is approaching. Zoro and Sanji fight Buggy's pirates, but Buggy is about to strike Luffy with his sword. When all seem seems lost, a lightning bolt hits Buggy, breaking the platform and freeing Luffy. After that, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji run back to the ship. Meanwhile, Buggy, Alvida, and their pirates are quickly defeated by the Marine Smoker, who hands them over to the Navy. On the way, Nami and Usopp manage to defeat Moji and his lion Richie, who were trying to set the ship on fire. Tashigi confronts Zoro, while Smoker faces Luffy and Sanji. But since Smoker has devil fruit powers, Luffy and Sanji can't attack him. Then, a mysterious person appears and saves them, allowing them to return to the ship safely. Smoker and Tashigi decide to go after the Straw Hats, while Buggy and his pirates, who escaped from the Navy, also head to the Grand Line to try and capture Luffy. Arc Reverse Mountain. As the Straw Hats sail through a storm, Nami realizes they are climbing the reverse mountain to reach the Grand Line. Suddenly, the storm stops, and Nami reveals that they are in the Calm Belt, one of the two ocean zones surrounding the Grand Line. After facing some Sea Kings, they cross the reverse mountain and encounter a giant whale named Laboon, blocking their path. The Going Merry crashes into the whale, breaking its mast. Luffy, annoyed, punches Laboon in the eye, and the whale opens its mouth and swallows the ship. Fortunately, Luffy manages to escape. Inside Laboon's belly, the Straw Hats find an island and soon come across a giant squid, which is taken down by a man named Crocus. Then, two strange people named Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday plan to take Laboon to feed their town. However, Luffy is launched in their direction, sending them flying toward Crocus and the Straw Hats. Crocus tries to calm Laboon and shoots at the bandits, while Luffy defeats them. Afterward, they return to Crocus's island, where he explains who Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday are and tells Laboon's story. The Straw Hats then leave the whale's belly and throw Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday into the water. The two promise revenge before swimming away. Luffy befriends Laboon, and the crew continues toward Twin Cape. Meanwhile, Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday swim in the same direction to retrieve their log pose, as they need to return to their island and report to their boss before getting into trouble. Arc Whiskey Peak. The adventure begins with Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday arriving at a town, soon followed by the Straw Hats, who also reach the island. They eat a lot until night falls and everyone ends up falling asleep. Meanwhile, some Baroque Works agents are disguised, planning to ambush the Straw Hats. However, Zoro and Nami pretend to be unconscious, disrupting the attack. After a long fight, the Straw Hats manage to defeat the agents. After the battle, it's revealed that Igaram and Princess Nefertari Vivi of the Alabasta Kingdom were infiltrated in Baroque Works to uncover the organization's plans. Vivi explains that her kingdom is in danger because Baroque Works is planning a civil war to take control of Alabasta and turn it into an ideal nation under the rule of its leader, Crocodile, who is one of the Shichibukai. Igaram, disguised as Vivi, decides to act as a decoy to help the princess. He leaves Whiskey Peak, but his ship explodes, apparently killing him. The Straw Hats and Vivi rush to the Going Merry. When they arrive, they meet Miss All Sunday, a Baroque Works agent who gives them an eternal pose to Nanomoni Island, which is near Alabasta. However, Luffy destroys the eternal pose, and as soon as Miss All Sunday leaves, the crew set sail for Little Garden. Arc Little Garden. The Straw Hats arrive at the island of Little Garden with Princess Vivi and meet Dory, a strong giant from Elbaf, who becomes their friend. Soon after, they meet Brogy, another giant. Dory says that he and Brogy have been fighting for 100 years, but they no longer remember why. This motivates Usopp to want to become a great warrior of the sea. When Dory and Brogy are about to fight again, Dory gets injured because he drank poison beer brought by the Straw Hats. The culprit is Mr. Five, who has magical powers. Believing Luffy is responsible, Dory tries to attack him, but Luffy quickly defeats him. Meanwhile, Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week capture Zoro and Nami. Usopp is also caught while trying to escape from a dinosaur. Due to his injury, Dory ends up losing to Brogy. Brogy realizes Dory is wounded, but it's too late. Mr. 3 uses wax to trap Dory and captures Vivi, defeating Usopp and Karoo. They get stuck in large candles that can turn them into wax statues. When Zoro almost frees himself, Luffy, Usopp, and Karoo arrive to help. Luffy knocks over a candelabra Cobra, speeding up the transformation. After much effort, they break the candles, and Nami and Vivi defeat Miss Valentine. Meanwhile, Luffy and Karoo chase after Mr. 3. He tries to fool Luffy by making wax statues of himself, but Luffy takes him down, and Karoo defeats Miss Golden Week. Sanji is having tea in Mr. 3's house when he receives a call from Crocodile, who mistakes him for one of his agents. Sanji lies, saying he managed to take down Vivi and the Straw Hats, then hangs up. When Sanji returns, Dory and Brogy say goodbye to the Straw Hats after defeating a giant sea monster. Then, the Straw Hats set off for Alabasta with the Eternal Pose. Arc, Drum Island. Nami becomes very ill, and the Straw Hat Pirates need to go to Drum Island. On the way, they are attacked by pirates led by Wapol. Luffy uses his strength to send Wapol flying into the sea, and the Straw Hats continue toward the island. They discover that there's a doctor named Kureha who lives on top of a mountain. Luffy and Sanji carry Nami on their backs and begin climbing the mountain. During the climb, they are attacked by many Lapans, and Sanji gets injured. Luffy continues climbing with Nami and Sanji, but when he reaches the top, his hands and feet are hurt, and he collapses in front of Dr. Kureha and her assistant, Tony Chopper. Meanwhile, Wapol and his crew return to the island and attack a town. Dalton tries to defend it, but is defeated. Wapol and his men head to their former home, Drum Castle. At the castle, Kureha and Chopper take care of Nami, Sanji, and Luffy. Kureha tells Chopper's backstory, and Luffy is deeply moved by it. Wapol and his crew arrive at the castle and attack the Straw Hats. After a big battle, Luffy defeats Wapol while protecting the flag Chopper made. Seeing Luffy's bravery, Chopper begins to admire him greatly. Luffy invites Chopper to join the crew, but Chopper refuses, thinking he's a monster. Luffy says he doesn't care and just wants Chopper to be his friend, leaving Chopper touched, and he accepts. At the end of the story, Kureha and Dalton are talking when a villager arrives with a wanted poster of Luffy. Kureha notices his full name is Monkey D. Luffy and reveals that the name of the famous pirate Gold Roger was actually Gold D. Roger. She smiles, knowing Luffy is someone she can trust. Arc, Alabasta. The Alabasta. Arc is a long part of the story, so I'll explain everything simply and quickly. The Straw Hat. Pirates arrive in the city of Nanohana, in the desert kingdom of Alabasta. Luffy, who is very hungry, enters the city without waiting for his friends. In a bar, he sees a man named Portgoss D. Ace fighting Captain Smoker and ends up knocking both of them down. Luffy grabs a lot of food, but has to run when Smoker gets up and starts chasing him. He leads the Marines to where his crew is, and Ace helps everyone escape. Afterwards, Luffy says that Ace is his brother. Ace jumps onto the ship and gives Luffy a piece of paper before leaving, destroying some enemy ships along the way. Vivi, a friend of the Straw Hats, sends a message to the king in Alubarna. The Straw Hat pirates sail up a river, and after a few adventures, meet Koza, the leader of the rebels, who welcomes them. Meanwhile, the villains of Baroque Works, including Miss All Sunday and Crocodile, make plans to overthrow Alabasta. They are ordered to find Luffy and his friends. In Alubarna, some villains kidnap King Nefertari Cobra, while Mr. 2 disguises himself as the king in Nanohana, causing confusion. During the chaos, Crocodile tries to attack Vivi, but Luffy saves her. Crocodile says he will only fight for 3 minutes and still manages to defeat Luffy, throwing him into quicksand. Miss All Sunday appears and rescues Luffy, leaving him with Pell. When Luffy wakes up, he sees Usopp, but Miss All Sunday realizes that Mr. 2 is in disguise. Karoo, a friend, escapes but is chased. Sanji shows up and helps Karoo get away, while Vivi tries to reach the palace. Many battles take place. Chopper and Usopp fight Mr. 4 and his dog, Nami faces Miss Doublefinger, and Zoro fights Mr. 1. At the palace, Vivi is frightened as Crocodile tries to attack her, but Luffy saves her. Luffy begins to fight Crocodile, while Miss All Sunday takes the king to a magical stone that reveals a great secret. She also fights Marines and reveals her true name is Nico Robin. As a child, she was accused of causing shipwrecks. Crocodile defeats Luffy again, and they go looking for more information about the magic stone. He becomes angry at Nico Robin for giving him false information and attacks her, but Cobra defends her. Luffy reappears injured and starts to win against Crocodile. Even though he's poisoned, he manages to defeat him. Nico Robin brings him medicine to heal. Luffy helps Robin and Cobra escape before the place collapses. On the surface, Vivi asks for help, and when it starts raining, the rebels and guards stop fighting. Vivi says the nightmare is over, and everyone is happy. After 3 days, Luffy wakes up and is ready for new adventures with his friends. Before leaving, they say goodbye to Vivi, who will always be part of the crew. When the Straw Hats leave Alabasta, Nico Robin decides to join them because Luffy saved her. She quickly becomes friends with everyone, although Zoro is still a bit suspicious suspicious. And so, the Straw Hat Pirates continue their journey in search of new adventures on the Grand Line. Arc Jaya. While sailing, a huge ship falls from the sky. The log pose, which is a special type of compass, starts pointing upward. Robin explains that this happens because the log is being pulled by an island with a strong magnetic field, which means there is a sky island. While exploring the ship, they find an old map of a land called Skypiea, along with a skull and some books. They discover that the ship is named Saint Brice, and it left the kingdom of Breeze 208 years ago. Suddenly, the sky darkens, and 3 giant shadows appear. The Straw Hat Pirates then head to a nearby island called Jaya. When they arrive in Loguetown, they meet some very strange people. There, they meet Sarquis, who is part of the Bellamy Pirates. He insults the group and even gives them some money to buy better clothes. Later, they go to a bar and meet Blackbeard, though they don't yet know who he is. Right after Blackbeard leaves, Bellamy storms into the bar looking for Luffy, saying he wants to test if he's worthy of joining his new pirate crew. Bellamy attacks Luffy and Zoro, while the other bar patrons throw things at them. Nami tries to convince them to fight back, but they refuse. After that, they are mocked and encounter Blackbeard again. He says it was wise not to fight those who aren't worth it, and encourages Luffy to follow his dreams. The 3 return to the ship and discover that Robin found information about a man named Mont Blanc Cricket, who might know how to get to the Sky Island. When they arrive at his house, it's empty, but they find a book about Mont Blanc Noland, which Sanji says is a famous story from the North Blue. Later, they meet Cricket, who explains that if Sky Island exists, the only way to reach it is through the Knockup Stream, a massive geyser in the ocean. So the Straw Hat Pirates go in search of it. When they reach the right place, they encounter the Blackbeard Pirates. But before a fight can break out, the Knockup Stream erupts and launches them into the White Sea, causing the Blackbeard Pirates' raft to be destroyed and fall back into the ocean below. Arc Skypiea. After being carried by a water jet, the Straw Hat Pirates arrive at a sea full of clouds. But before they can rest, a mysterious masked man appears and attacks them. The crew can't defend themselves, but an old knight named Gan Fall, who flies on a bird called Pierre, comes to their rescue. They become friends, and Gan Fall gives them a whistle so they can call him when they need help. Upon arriving at Angel Island, the locals welcome them and talk about their culture and a special place where God Enel lives, which makes Luffy very curious. Nami sees Enel's priests trying to catch a treasure hunter. Before they succeed, Enel sends a lightning bolt from the sky and strikes the hunter down. On the beach, the crew encounters the White Berets, led by Chief McKinley, who accuses them of being criminals for entering without permission. Nami gets angry and pushes McKinley. The White Berets attack, but Luffy easily defeats them. Now, they are considered Class 2 criminals. After some chaos, the Straw Hat Pirates become fugitives and head toward the City of Gold, where they encounter a giant snake. The snake's attack separates the group, and only Robin continues in the right direction. Enel releases his 50 Divine Warriors, led by Yama, to face them. Zoro defeats a warrior named Bram, while Luffy fights Wiper, but ends up being swallowed by the snake. Chopper defeats a priest named Gadatsu, and Robin beats Yama in some ancient ruins. On the ship, Enel tells Gonfall he no longer needs the island. Sanji and Usopp try to attack Enel, but he uses electricity and knocks them out. Then, Enel targets the Shandian warrior Kamakiri, striking him with lightning. Meanwhile, Robin reaches the City of Gold, which has several cloud layers. She discovers there's no gold, but she finds an ancient stone called a poneglyph. Enel overhears Robin talking about a golden bell and reveals his plan to destroy Skypiea. Luffy faces Enel and is surprised to learn that Enel's lightning doesn't work on him because Luffy is made of rubber. Luffy manages to injure Enel, who then tries new tactics. The Straw Hat Pirates unite to fight Enel, but he is very strong. He rises to the top of Skypiea and uses his most powerful technique called Rego, destroying Angel Island and creating a massive hole in the clouds. When he reaches the Golden Bell, he prepares an even stronger Rego to end Skypiea. Luffy grabs a gold ball and spins it to attract the electricity, breaking it and causing Enel to fall. As Enel and the bell fall into the sea, the sky clears, and the people of Skypiea celebrate their victory. But Enel recovers and returns to his ship, determined to go alone to Fairy Verth, located on the moon. The next day, the Straw Hat Pirates prepare, gather supplies, and say goodbye to the people of Skypiea, ready for their next adventure on the Grand Line. Arc Long Ring, Long Land. Luffy and his crew arrive at an island called Longring Longland, where they go on some adventures, including a competition organized by Foxy. But the most important events happen at the end of this arc. After Luffy defeats Foxy, they meet a very tall and thin man who is sleeping while standing. When Robin removes his sleeping mask, she is surprised to discover it's Aokiji, one of the 3 admirals. Aokiji says he doesn't want to fight, he just came to see where Robin was since she left Alabasta. He helps a man named Tonjit reach his tribe by freezing a path to the next island. After Tonjit leaves, Aokiji sees the crew as a threat to the world. He considers Robin the greatest threat because she can read the poneglyph. Aokiji explains that all the organizations Robin once knew are gone, and that she is the sole survivor of Ohara. A major confrontation breaks out, and Aokiji ends up freezing Robin. Even when the Straw Hats attack, they can't harm the Admiral. Luffy keeps fighting, but also ends up frozen. Aokiji decides to spare Luffy because he sees some determination in him. Then he leaves, allowing Nico Robin to be thawed out. Arc Water 7. After being attacked by Aokiji, the crew recovers and resumes sailing. During the journey, they see a giant frog, and Luffy asks everyone to follow it. The frog leads them to underwater tracks, where they are nearly run over by a train traveling on the water. At a station, they meet Kokoro, the station chief, her granddaughter Chimney, and their pet rabbit, Gombe. They explain a few things about the place and offer the crew a stay in the city of Water 7. Upon arriving in the city, the Straw Hats decide to split up. Luffy, Nami, and Usopp go to exchange their Skypiea gold and look for a shipwright. Robin and Chopper go exploring, while Sanji does the same on his own, leaving Zoro on the ship. While Chopper is in a bookstore, a masked man passes Robin and says CP9, leaving her shocked. When Chopper comes out, Robin is already gone. Sanji sees Robin with the masked man, but when he turns the corner, they've disappeared. Later, he meets up with Chopper, and they start searching for Robin. After some conflicts between the Straw Hats and a group of thieves led by Frankie, Chopper and Sanji finally find Robin. She explains that there is darkness in her heart, and if she stays, it may consume the whole crew. She says she will leave. Luffy, Zoro, Nami, and Chopper gather and realize Robin might be acting under duress because of the masked man. Zoro warns them not to get their hopes up and concludes that there will be another attack that night, which they must face. CP9 attacks Iceberg to obtain the blueprints of an ancient ship called Pluton, but discovers he doesn't have them. Frankie does. Lucci, the leader of CP9, decides to go after the blueprints, but the Straw Hats show up to stop him. Lucci easily defeats the Straw Hats, as he fights using a special style called Rokushiki, which all CP9 members know. He then goes after Frankie and defeats him. After a series of events, Iceberg reveals that Nico Robin said CP9 could call a buster call with Admiral Aokiji's authorization. They would use it against the Straw Hats unless Robin helped assassinate Iceberg and went with them to Enies Lobby. Upon learning that Robin didn't betray them, the Straw Hats decide to go to Enies Lobby to rescue her. Frankie's family and some shipwrights also agree to help in the rescue. Arc Enies Lobby. Luffy, Nami, Zoro, Chopper, the Frankie family, Galley Lost Shipwrights, Kokoro, Chimney, Gombe, and Yokozuna. Leave Water 7 on the sea train called Rocketman heading to Enies Lobby. Meanwhile, on the Puffing Tom, Sanji, Sogeking, and Frankie try to save Robin but face strong enemies like Nero and Wanzi. Unfortunately, they fail in their mission, and Frankie is captured by CP9. The Straw Hats, along with the Frankie family and the shipwrights, launch a large-scale attack on Enies Lobby against thousands of Marine soldiers and CP9 agents. After invading the island, CP9 and the Straw Hats clash, and Robin's past is revealed, explaining why she fears returning to the crew. Nico Robin explains she has been betrayed many times and is afraid the Straw Hats will see her as a burden and betray her too. She cries out that she'd rather die than go through that again. The other Straw Hats understand Robin's fear, but Spandam laughs and says she's easy to replace, claiming no one would dare oppose the government. Luffy then asks Sogeking to shoot down the government flag, which represents 170 nations. Without hesitation, Sogeking uses his new weapon to set the flag on fire, shocking Spandam, Robin, and all the Marines in Enies Lobby. Luffy tells Robin she must admit she wants to live. After seeing her friends defend her, Robin cries and begs to go with them. At that moment, the Frankie family manages to pull the levers, and the drawbridge between the courthouse and the Tower of Justice begins to descend, initiating the Straw Hats' full assault. Frankie, impressed by the Straw Hats' courage, realizes he was wrong about Robin and reveals that the government is after the blueprints of a weapon called Pluton. He says the architect who created them believed such a powerful weapon shouldn't exist without a way to stop it. To protect the Straw Hats, Frankie burns the blueprints in front of CP9, placing his bet on their victory. As they attempt to rescue Robin, several battles unfold. Luffy versus Blueno, Frankie versus Fukuro, Chopper versus Kumadori, Nami versus Khalifa, Sanji versus Jabura, Zoro versus Kaku, and finally, Luffy versus Rob Lucci. Before CP9 is defeated, Spandam calls a buster call. Government ships arrive and begin destroying everything. The Straw Hats and their allies manage to escape Enies Lobby in time, avoiding a major disaster. Arc Post-Enies Lobby. After the Straw Hats leave Enies Lobby, the story jumps forward 2 days. They return to Water 7, and, after a long sleep, everyone wakes up, except for Luffy, who is still asleep while eating. Suddenly, they see a marine ship approaching and recognize it as the ship of the famous Vice Admiral Garp, who once fought the Pirate King, Gol D. Roger. Garp breaks through the wall where the Straw Hats are and punches Luffy, waking him up in surprise. To everyone's astonishment, Luffy reveals that Garp is his grandfather. Garp talks about powerful pirates, the 4 emperors, and mentions that Shanks is one of them. Meanwhile, Zoro arrives and begins fighting the Marines that came with Garp. Luffy also fights a Marine, and they win easily, revealing that the Marines are Kobe and Helmeppo. Garp then reveals that Luffy's father is Monkey D. Dragon, the revolutionary, shocking everyone. He also says that he came to fulfill Kobe and Helmeppo's wish to meet Luffy and his crew. Afterward, he gives them tips on how to cross Reverse Mountain and leaves. Back in Water 7, the Straw Hats receive new bounties, with Frankie's bounty also increasing. They are introduced to their new ship, the Thousand Sunny, which is much larger than the Mary. Frankie explains the various features of the new ship, and after some hesitation, he decides to join the crew as their new shipwright. The scene shifts to Teach, who encounters Ace. Teach is hunting Luffy and reveals that he killed Thatch, a commander of the Whitebeard pirates, to steal the devil fruit he wanted. Ace and Teach begin to fight, and the battle ends with a massive clash between their powers, but the winner is left unknown. Thriller. Bark. 3 days after Enies Lobby, the Straw Hats are enjoying themselves on their new ship. Suddenly, they hear a strange song and discover a ghost ship with a singing skeleton. The skeleton's name is Brook, a living skeleton who ate a magical fruit that brought him back to life. He tells them that his shadow was stolen by an enemy, and the Straw Hats decide to help him recover it. They travel to an island called Thriller Bark, which is actually a massive ship. There, they encounter many revived enemies. The main villains are Gecko Moria, the captain, along with his allies Hogback, Absalom, and Perona. These enemies make the Straw Hats' mission to recover Brook's shadow very difficult. During the final battle, Luffy fights Gecko Moria to recover all the souls. Moria manages to revive Oars, a very strong and legendary giant, but after a tough fight, the Straw Hats defeat Oars. After the battle, Luffy is so exhausted that he collapses. Bartholomew Kuma, one of the villains, appears and makes a deal with Zoro. Kuma uses his power to extract Luffy's pain, and Zoro agrees to take it upon himself instead. When Luffy wakes up, he has no idea what happened. The Straw Hats then leave the island, while Zoro keeps the secret of the deal he made with Kuma. Arc Sabaody. After leaving the ghost ship Thriller Bark, the Straw Hats follow the log post to find Fishman Island. When they arrive at the location, they encounter a major obstacle called the Red Line. They rescue a girl named Cammy from a giant fish, and she uses her ability to talk to fish to take them to Grove 44 in the Sabaody Archipelago. There, they have a confrontation with Duval and his crew before reaching Sabaody. Hachan, who was captured by Duval, says that there is a mechanic who can help put a bubble on their ship to reach Fishman Island. While Usopp, Frankie, and Sanji repair the ship, Luffy, Nami, Chopper, Robin, and Brook explore the island with the help of Hachan, Cammy, and Papag. During the exploration, they see people wearing iron collars and being treated as prisoners, but they cannot help them to avoid drawing attention. They arrive at a bar and meet Shakuyaku, a former pirate and friend of Hatchet. She informs them that the engineer Rayleigh is not at the bar, but is still on the island. Luffy suggests waiting for Rayleigh, but Shaki says he hasn't returned in 6 months. She warns them to be careful, as there are many dangerous pirates on the island, and Luffy is one of the most wanted. Meanwhile, Garp discovers that Rayleigh is being auctioned at Sabaody to pay off gambling debts. Cammy is captured and taken to the auction house, so the Straw Hats decide to rescue her. Nami suggests playing by the rules to buy Cammy back, and Hatchin and Papig are moved by the idea of helping her. At the auction house, the noble Charlos arrives and places a high bid to buy Kami, who is in a tank with an explosive collar. When Luffy sees this, he runs to the stage and punches Charlos, causing a major commotion. Rayleigh appears and says he was only there to collect the money, but nobody would buy an old man like him. Using his haki, Rayleigh knocks out the guards around him, and upon seeing Luffy, says he is excited to meet him. The news that Luffy attacked a world noble spreads quickly across the island, leaving everyone in shock. Many of the supernovas decide to leave to escape the arrival of an admiral, but some stay out of curiosity to see who will come. In Mary Jouai's, Sengoku is furious upon learning that Luffy was responsible for the attack. Admiral Kizaru says he will handle the situation immediately. Back at the auction house, Rayleigh manages to remove Cammy's collar without the key, surprising the Straw Hats. Afterward, Luffy, Law, and Kid team up to defeat the Marines surrounding them. They head to Shaki's bar to tend to Hachi's injuries. While talking, Rayleigh reveals that he was the first mate of the famous pirate Gol D. Roger and speaks about his former crew. Meanwhile, a pirate crew tries to leave, but a ship appears on the horizon and fires a cannon, revealing Admiral Kizaru. At the bar, Rayleigh congratulates Luffy on his achievements and offers to help repair the Straw Hats' ship for free. Robin asks about the Void Century and mentions a note from Roger found in Skypiea. Rayleigh says the Roger pirates discovered the whole story, but advises Robin to continue her own quest. While they talk, many pirates try to flee from Kizaru, but he is very strong and defeats them easily. At Grove 12, the Straw Hats encounter a pacifista and begin to fight it. Kuma and Kizaru appear to face them, and Rayleigh steps in between Kizaru and the Straw Hats while they attempt to escape. Kuma uses his power to touch the Straw Hats, making them disappear one by one. Luffy is devastated to see his friends vanish, until Kuma touches him as well, causing him to disappear. Arc Amazon Lily. After Luffy was sent to an unknown place, he met three women named Marguerite, Sweet Pea, and Aphilandra, who took him to their village. They introduced him to Elder Neon and said he was on the island of the Kuja called Amazon Lily. This is an island inhabited only by women who are strong warriors, and men are not welcome. Because he was a man, Luffy was imprisoned, but he met the Empress Boa Hancock, who is the captain of the Kuja pirates. He tried to escape the island, but the Amazons wouldn't let him. At one point, Luffy was put in an arena to fight against some Kuja pirates, and he defeated Hancock's sisters, Marigold and Sandersonia. After the fight, Hancock called Luffy to the throne room and showed him a mark on her back, which meant she had been captured by the world nobles. Luffy was surprised by Hancock's story and said he did not regret punching a world noble, leaving Hancock impressed. She told him that when she was 12, she and her sisters were kidnapped by traffickers and sold to the world nobles, who treated them very badly. One day, a fishman named Fisher Tiger invaded the place where they were, and the sisters managed to escape. Hancock, seeing that Luffy was a good person, fell in love with him. She decided to help Luffy rescue his brother Ace, who was about to be executed, by taking him to Impel Down. While Luffy and Hancock head to Impel Down, the story of the other Straw Hats is shown. Nami wakes up on a sky island called Weatheraya, Frankie on Karakuri Island, Sanji on Momoaro Island, Usopp in the Boyne Archipelago, Brook on Namakura Island, Nico Robin on the Tequila Wolf Bridge, Chopper in the Torino Kingdom, Zoro on Kuragana Island. Separation of the Straw Hats. Sanji was sent by Bartholomew Kuma to the Kamabaka Kingdom, where he was trying to escape from a place he calls Hell. However, he ended up becoming one of the Okamas of the island. Robin was sent to Tequila Wolf, where she was also trying to escape. Fortunately, the revolutionaries arrived and helped her get out of there. Frankie was sent to Karakuri Island, where he was chased by cyborg animals. He found the house where Vegapunk was born. Usopp was sent to the Boyne Archipelago. He and his friend, Heracles, discovered a forest full of food, and Usopp ended up gaining a lot of weight. Chopper was sent to the Torino Kingdom, where he had to escape from natives who wanted to make a stew out of him. He escaped just in time before large birds attacked the natives. Nami was sent to Weatheraya, an island in the sky where scientists study the weather. She was impressed to see how they could control the climate. Brook was sent to Namakura Island, and Zoro was sent to Kuraigana Island, where he met Perona. Together, they explored the island and found a mysterious man with a giant sword. Impel Down. After Luffy and Hancock board the ship, they prepare to go to Marineford. Meanwhile, many powerful Marines gather there to prepare to fight against Whitebeard. 4 days after leaving Amazon Lily, Luffy and Hancock finally arrive at Impel Down prison. As soon as they enter, an officer discovers that Buggy has managed to escape from his cell. There are only 33 hours left until Ace's execution. Luffy spends a lot of time searching for Ace. During his search, he finds Buggy, and the two decide to free many prisoners, gaining several allies. Thus, Luffy forms a group with Buggy, Crocodile, Jinbe, some revolutionaries, and many other important prisoners who are going to help save Ace. Meanwhile, Teach and his crew appear in Impel Down, attacking the Marines protecting the place. Hannibal, the prison chief, becomes very nervous about the situation, worried about Luffy and his friends on the 4th floor and the rebellion on the 2nd floor. Luffy tries to leave the level, but Hannibal and many guards stop him. A conflict begins between the prisoners and the Marines. In the midst of the confusion, Hannibal's guards are pulled into the darkness, and Teach is responsible for it. Teach knocks Hannibal down, and although Luffy and Teach fight briefly, they decide to stop and go their separate ways. Because of all this, Luffy is unable to save Ace in time. Ace is taken to Marineford, waiting for his execution. When noon arrives, there are only 3 hours left for the execution. Ace is sent up the stairs toward the gallows, and remembers a promise he made to Luffy to live a life without regrets and one day set sail to be free. Arc Marineford. Many strong Marines stand in front of Ace, waiting for Whitebeard's appearance on the Moby Dick ship. Inside the ship, Newgate, Whitebeard, and Ace have an emotional conversation. Newgate refuses to back down and uses his power, causing a massive tsunami. As the tsunami approaches, Admiral Aokiji uses his ice powers to freeze the waves before they reach the Marineford base. Newgate's pirates jump from their ships and prepare to attack Marineford, which is now covered in ice. During the battle, Luffy fights to save Ace. He manages to free his brother, and the two begin running towards the allied ships, but Admiral Akainu appears to stop them. Newgate, exhausted from the fight, steps forward to protect Luffy and Ace. Akainu taunts Newgate, calling him a failure, which makes Ace furious. When Ace attacks Akainu, he is gravely injured because Akainu controls magma. Luffy tries to help Ace, but ends up falling. Ace realizes Luffy is in danger and steps in front to protect him, receiving a fatal blow from Akainu. The pirates are horrified to see Ace wounded, while his vivre card, which shows if someone is alive, burns. Jinbe tries to help, but Akainu keeps attacking. Meanwhile, Garp behaves strangely, and Sengoku restrains him, fearing he might attack Akainu. When Luffy holds the wounded Ace, Ace says goodbye, stating that his biggest regret is not seeing Luffy achieve his dream. He expresses that he doesn't regret his life, but wonders if he should have been born. Ace thanks everyone with a smile and falls to the ground lifeless. Luffy is devastated and screams in pain. Whitebeard's pirates are also shocked. Akainu tries to attack Luffy again, but Marco stops him and asks Jinbe to take Luffy away. Jinbe quickly does so, while Whitebeard appears furious and attacks Akainu. Whitebeard fights bravely, but Teach appears with pirates he freed and attacks Newgate. After being severely wounded, Whitebeard reveals that the One Piece treasure exists before losing his life. His body is covered with a black cloth, leaving everyone confused. Meanwhile, Jinbe carries Luffy, who is in a coma. The water around them is frozen because of Admiral Aokiji. Suddenly, Akainu appears, demanding that Jinbe hand over Luffy, but Jinbe refuses. Jinbe promises to keep Luffy safe, and Ivankov appears to help, attacking Akainu with a strike. Teach, who was near Newgate, uses the power of darkness and suddenly causes an earthquake, revealing that he stole Newgate's power and now possesses 2 devil fruits. Ivankov tries to protect Jinbe, but Akainu ignores him and leaps to attack Jinbe. Jinbe realizes he is being frozen as Aokiji apologizes. Akainu attacks with lava, injuring Luffy and leaving a mark on his chest. Jinbe stands up but is surprised by a wave of sand that splits Akainu. Crocodile appears and uses his power to launch Luffy and Jinbe into the air. They meet Buggy, who is still running away. When a submarine appears, Trafalgar Law calls Buggy and asks him to help Luffy as he is a doctor. With no other option, Buggy hands Luffy and Jinbe to Law. After Luffy leaves Marineford, Kobe shouts that the battle no longer makes sense, even challenging Akainu. Furious, Akainu tries to attack him, but Shanks appears and blocks the attack with his sword. He tells Kobe that his courage changed the course of the world. With Shanks' pirates arriving, the battle ends. All the pirates and Marines withdraw, and Shanks takes the bodies of Ace and Newgate to bury them with respect. Arc Post-War. Jinbei leaves the submarine and thanks Law for saving him. He is worried about Luffy, and Boa Hancock suggests taking him to Amazon Lily, where he can recover. At the Amazon Lily Palace, Hancock is very happy to learn that Luffy has woken up. She wants to see him, but Elder Neon stops her, thinking it would be a bad example for everyone. At the Heart Pirates camp, Law observes Luffy's straw hat with curiosity. Luffy, now conscious, calms down upon realizing he's not dreaming. Jinbei takes care of him and reminds him that he promised Ace he would protect Luffy if anything happened. Luffy asks Jinbei if Ace really died, and Jinbei confirms it, making Luffy cry. Jinbei also cries, feeling sad for not being able to save Ace. In a flashback, we see the story of Luffy, Ace, and Sabo, three friends who dreamed of sailing together. But the dream ended when Sabo died and Ace went to sea alone. In the present, Rayleigh arrives swimming at the island of the Kuja women and asks Luffy if he wants to be trained by him to get stronger. Luffy accepts. Later, he goes to Marineford to leave a secret message for his friends, asking them to train and meet in 2 years. Then, Luffy leaves with Rayleigh to learn hockey. Return to Sabaody. After 2 years, Luffy recovers his hat when Hancock and the Kuja pirates arrive to take him back to the Sabaody Archipelago. He shows off his new abilities while reuniting with his friends, the Straw Hats. The Straw Hats gather and share their new abilities. They find Kuma, who is injured near the ship. Kuma says he protected the Thousand Sunny during all those years. After seeing Frankie, Kuma leaves the Sabaody Archipelago. Then, the Straw Hats reunite on the ship, cover it with a special bubble, and set off for Fishman Island, ready for their next adventure. Fishman Island. After the Straw Hats escape, they are underwater, sailing to a place called the Dysphotic Zone, about 1,000 meters deep. Meanwhile, the Caribou Pirates' ship approaches quickly. The Straw Hats face the Caribou Pirates, but are pulled down by a strong current. Frankie, with Nami's help, manages to prevent the ship from sinking, but Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro get separated from the group. They find themselves in a dark and cold part of the ocean called the Deep Sea, full of sea monsters. While searching for Luffy, Chopper sees a light and thinks they've reached Fishman Island. But in fact, the light comes from a giant fish trying to eat the ship. A sea giant named Umibozu appears and drives it away. The Straw Hats then see a cursed ship belonging to Vanderdecken, who orders his ally Watatsumi to attack the Thousand Sunny, starting a new battle. But suddenly, a Kraken appears and attacks Watatsumi. Luffy, who has befriended the Kraken, names it Surume and asks it to help. Arriving at Fishman Island, Luffy and his crew make many friends, including Princess Shirahoshi. They learn about the island's history and the Fishman's hatred for humans, especially from Hody and his allies, who want to dominate the island. The Straw Hats fight against Hody and his Fishmen. Meanwhile, Princess Shirahoshi tries to stop Vanderdecken from using the Noah ship to destroy the island's protection. With her new powers, Shirahoshi manages to control the Sea Kings and reveals herself as Poseidon, the god of the sea. After a great battle, Luffy defeats Hody, and King Neptune thanks the Straw Hats, offering resources for their next adventure. Before they leave, Jinbei says goodbye, mentioning he has matters to resolve but promises to join them later. The Straw Hats depart, hopeful to see Jinbei again. Punk Hazard. While the Straw Hats are leaving Fishman Island, Luffy tries to fish and ends up knocking out a fish, but this attracts a bigger fish and then an even bigger eel. Zoro cuts the eel, but its weight makes the ship stop. Then, a whirlpool called White Storm appears and pulls the ship underwater. After being dragged down, they realize they are on Punk Hazard. A G5 Marine ship appears with Vice Admiral Smoker on board. On the Thousand Sunny, the crew decides to split up. Luffy, Zoro, Robin, and Usopp go to explore the island in a small boat, while the others stay on the ship to protect it. The four arrive at the beach and find a large metal gate. Zoro cuts it to get inside. Meanwhile, Sanji prepares a dish for Nami, but realizes that everyone on the ship is asleep because of a gas. He tries to warn Luffy, but ends up falling asleep as well. When Sanji, Chopper, Frankie, and Nami wake up, they are in a room on the island. Frankie uses his radical beam to break the door, and they escape. They find the head of a samurai named Kinemon and decide to help him find his body. During the search, they meet Momonosuke, a child that Kinemon recognizes as his shogun. The Straw Hats also encounter Law, who explains that the children are being used for experiments by a scientist named Doctor Caesar, who works with Vegapunk and creates artificial fruits for a pirate named Joker. The Straw Hats face Caesar and his allies, Monet and Virgo, while Smoker also tries to stop them. Smoker fights Virgo but is defeated. Law then fights Virgo, using his powers to cut him in half and destroy part of the island. With the attack, a dangerous gas starts flooding the area, and everyone has to escape. Luffy fights Caesar, who tries to negotiate, but Luffy strikes him with full force, knocking him out. After defeating the pirates protecting Caesar, the Straw Hats head to the surface. Luffy tells his crew that he has formed an alliance with Law and wants to defeat Kaido, a powerful emperor. For that, they need to go to Dressrosa and face Joker, also known as Doflamingo, a very dangerous pirate. Arc Dressrosa. After Doflamingo resigned from his position as a Shichibukai, many islands were left confused and prepared to lose his support. In Dressrosa, the Don Quixote pirates were resting in the palace. Doflamingo spoke with his three friends, Trebol, Pika, and Diamante, and revealed that Diamante had the animenomi. He wanted to use this fruit to lure Luffy into a trap at the Colosseum. The Straw Hats and their friends arrived in Dressrosa and learned that the animenomi would be the prize for a competition at the Colosseum. Luffy decided to participate, but disguised so as not to be noticed. Meanwhile, the other Straw Hats and Law were planning how to find and defeat Doflamingo. Luffy fought against various enemies and came close to winning the tournament, but encountered his brother Sabo, whom he thought was dead. Sabo told Luffy that he was alive and part of the Revolutionary Army. He asked Luffy to use his disguise and fight in his place so that he could win the animenomi. Luffy agreed, and Sabo won the fight and ate the fruit, gaining the fire powers and the determination of his brother, Ace. Meanwhile, the other Straw Hats and Law fought against Doflamingo's pirates to prevent him from causing more destruction. The moment came for the big battle between Luffy, Law, and Doflamingo. Luffy activated his special power, Gear 4 Bondman, and managed to injure Doflamingo, but soon became exhausted. The Colosseum fighters united to help Luffy recover. Marines, CP0 members, and Admiral Fujitora appeared and tried to attack Luffy, but Sabo stopped them, giving Luffy a chance to fight again. After 10 minutes, Luffy was ready and faced Doflamingo, who used a special power to trap everyone in the city in a cage. In the end, Luffy managed to defeat Doflamingo, freeing everyone who was imprisoned. The Navy arrived, making the place dangerous for the pirates. The pirates who helped Luffy joined the Straw Hats, forming a large fleet. Each captain took a piece of Luffy's Vivre card and set off in different directions, hoping to help Luffy again in the future. Arc Zoo. A week after leaving Dressrosa, the Straw Hats arrived at Zoo, which was a giant elephant carrying an island on its back. This island was home to the Mink tribe, a secluded people who were rumored to dislike humans. They docked at the elephant's leg next to the Thousand Sunny and soon befriended the Minks. The Minks showed the Straw Hats the road poneglyph, which was located at the whale tree. They explained that there were 4 road poneglyphs in the world, which would lead to the great treasure the Straw Hats were seeking. Nico Robin noted the translation. While part of the Straw Hats conversed in Zoo, the other part on the ship was attacked by Big Mom's pirates, a Yonko. During the attack, Sanji was captured and taken to Whole Cake to marry Big Mom's daughter. Upon learning of the kidnapping, Luffy and the Straw Hats split up. Luffy, Nami, Chopper, and Brook would go to rescue Sanji, while the others would go to Wano to observe and plan the defeat of Kaido. Before Luffy departed, Peacocks and Carrot, 2 Minks, offered their help, and Luffy accepted. Thus, they set off for Whole Cake in search of Sanji. Whole Cake Island. When the Straw Hats arrived at Whole Cake, Sanji was taken to prepare for his wedding. During this part of the story, we learn more about Sanji's family, the Vinsmoke family. In the past, Sanji's father, Judge, worked with Vegapunk, and they discovered how to modify children to be stronger. However, this modification made them lose their emotions. Judge had a daughter named Reiju and was expecting quadruplets, planning to use his children as experiments. Sanji's mother, concerned about this, drank a liquid that harmed her, but ensured that Sanji was born normal and full of emotions, while his brothers were born without feelings but stronger. Because of this, they called him a joke, except for Reiju, who was also sentimental but managed to hide her feelings. Over time, Sanji's mother became ill and died, leaving him heartbroken. His father locked him in a prison and told everyone that Sanji had died. Reiju helped Sanji escape, and he began a new life as a cook, trying to forget his past. But now, his past was catching up with him, and he was forced to face his fears again. Meanwhile, the Straw Hats fought against Big Mom's pirates. Luffy managed to find Sanji, but he didn't want to join his friends because he was being forced to marry to protect those he loved. Luffy realized that Sanji did not want to marry, but even so, he and the Straw Hats did not give up on saving him. A great commotion occurred in Whole Cake, and Jinbe decided to join the Straw Hats, cutting ties with Big Mom. Soon, the Vinsmoke family discovered that Big Mom planned to get rid of them after the wedding. So the Straw Hats and the Vinsmoke family joined forces to escape. During the escape, Luffy faced Katakuri, Big Mom's strongest son, and used his Gear 4 Snakemen to defeat him. Thus, Luffy, the Straw Hats, and Sanji set off toward Wano, while Big Mom and her pirates pursued them, making the situation even more thrilling. Arc Levely. While the events of Dressrosa unfold, the leaders of the kingdoms gather in Mary Joyce to discuss the Shichibukai. During this meeting, they decide to disband the Shichibukai group, making its members wanted pirates once again. During the same meeting, the Revolutionary Army attacks a nearby island and then invades Mary Joyce in an attempt to rescue Kuma, who was transformed into a robot and now serves a very powerful noble. The revolutionaries face off against Admiral Fujitora and Ryokugyu, creating great chaos that forces the leaders to retreat to avoid getting hurt. Additionally, in this meeting, we learn about a mysterious figure named Im-sama, who is above the Gorosei. This person is responsible for giving them orders and secretly commands the Sekai Seifu. Arc Wano. Before Luffy and his friends arrive in Wano, Nekomamushi goes to visit Marco, who is a doctor. He tells Marco that he's heading to Wano. During the journey, Luffy's crew faces a storm and sees giant carp. Luffy uses the carp to climb up a waterfall. Upon arriving in Wano, Kinemon and his friends disguise themselves to escape from the evil Shogun Orochi. Frankie learns to be a carpenter, Usopp sells oil, and Robin trains to become a geisha. Zoro is accused of bad things. Luffy meets a girl named Tama, who gets sick from drinking dirty water. Hitetsu explains that Wano is poor because of Orochi and Kaido. The Beast's pirates, led by Basil Hawkins, are losing. Luffy saves Tsuru from pirates, and she takes them to her home. Later, Luffy and Zoro join Law to go to Odin's castle, where they find graves of friends, but Kinemon appears alive. Everyone gets ready to fight Kaido. Kaido finds out that Luffy is in Wano and causes a lot of trouble. Luffy fights Kaido, but is defeated and imprisoned. In prison, he meets Eustace Kid, and they both promise to take revenge. Orochi tries to make deals, but ends up attacking someone. During a party, Robin tries to overhear important secrets, but is caught by ninjas. Toko, a little girl, makes Orochi angry, and he tries to attack her, but Komurasaki protects her. Orochi transforms into a monster and captures Komurasaki. Orochi's ninjas search for Robin and Toko, but they get help from Brook. Nami and Shinobu, who are hiding, also help Komurasaki. Nami uses lightning against Orochi, and they all manage to escape. They take Toko home and go to the northern graveyard. In prison, Luffy and Kid work but help a friend. Raizo, in disguise, finds the keys to free Luffy, but Caribou shows up asking for food. On Onigashima, Kaido prepares for the arrival of the Big Mom pirates, who want to go to the prison where Luffy is. In the prison mine, Luffy fights the guards. Raizo finds his friend Kawamatsu, and everyone joins forces to fight. Luffy and Hyogoro face challenges but stay strong. In the Flower Capital, Orochi gets angry and decides to crucify a thief. Toko tries to save him, and Luffy's friends join the fight against Orochi. Kinemon and Ashura take the group to Itachi Port, where they find old ships to go to Onigashima. Zoro fights and defeats ninjas who are chasing him. He meets Yukimaru, but they are interrupted by the Beast's pirates. Zoro and Kawamatsu fight together, and Hiyori is happy to see Kawamatsu again. Hiyori doesn't want Kawamatsu to give all the food to her. They find a secret room full of swords. Kawamatsu informs Kinemon about the weapons for the battle. Hiyori gives Zoro a special sword called Enma. In prison, Law interrogates Hawkins, who says Apu works for Kaido. Luffy trains and his friends repair the ships. The Straw Hats and the 9 Red Scabbards gather to plan the final battle. One day before the battle, they discover that Kaido and Big Mom are working together. On the day of the Fire Festival, Orochi heads to Onigashima. Kinemon and his group arrive at Tokage Port and find everything destroyed. 2 days before the festival, Orochi destroys bridges to stop the Scabbards, but they decide to move forward. Momonosuke gets worried, but the Scabbards remember that his father started alone. Kanjuro, a traitor, takes Momonosuke to Onigashima while the Scabbards fight. Luffy, Law, and Kid attack the Beast Pirates, and Denjiro brings 1,000 samurai to help. Kanjuro attacks Hiyori, but Sanji and Robin try to help Momonosuke. The Beast Pirates ship attacks, but Jinbe appears to save them. Law suggests splitting into groups to attack Onigashima. Inside Kaido's castle, Luffy fights the siblings Page 1 and Ulti, and Yamato helps Luffy escape. Kaido plans to conquer the world, but Orochi gets angry and Kaido attacks him. The 9 Red Scabbards attack Kaido and start the invasion. They manage to injure Kaido, leaving him confused. Nami and Carrot escape when Big Mom appears. Luffy promises to defeat Kaido, Big Mom, and Orochi. Kaido transforms into a dragon and flies off with the Scabbards chasing him, ready to fight. Kaido and his allies, Jack and Nangi, are ready to fight. The minks transform into powerful forms. Shinobu tries to free Momonosuke, but King catches her. Sanji, invisible, saves Momonosuke. Luffy fights Big Mom, but Zoro defends him. The samurai face Jack and Orochi, quickly defeating Orochi. On the rooftop, the Supernovas are injured and need to separate Kaido and Big Mom. The two villains use a powerful attack, but Zoro manages to block it. Luffy attacks Kaido but gets hit. Kid sets a trap for Big Mom, and Law helps to attack her. Zoro and Law keep attacking Kaido, but he gets furious and launches an attack. Kaido thinks he's won, but Luffy stands up and attacks again. He wants to use a special technique. Luffy fights hard, but ends up falling into the sea. Big Mom comes down from the sky and attacks Kid and Killer, throwing them into the castle. Nami and Tama wanted to pass, but Ulti blocked them. Big Mom appeared and accidentally hit Ulti. Zeus, who is Nami's friend, was sad because Big Mom wanted to eat him. Nami tried to help Zeus, but Big Mom ate his clouds. Tama wanted to run away, but Big Mom attacked her. Kid arrived and knocked down Big Mom, allowing everyone to escape. On the lower floor, Chopper was fighting Queen. Sanji showed up, helped Chopper, and asked Zoro to take care of him. Nami, Usopp, and Tama discovered that Zeus was inside Nami's weapon. Meanwhile, Jinbei was fighting Who's Who and defeated him with a powerful strike. Luffy was unconscious, but when he woke up, he asked for meat. Yamato decided to confront Kaido. Robin and Brook fought Black Maria, and Robin won with a strong attack. Killer defeated Hawkins and saved Kid. On the lower floor, Sanji and Zoro were fighting King and Queen. Momonosuke grew up and turned into a dragon, but he was afraid to fly. Luffy and Yamato attacked Kaido together. Momonosuke decided to become the Shogun and tried to help stop the island. Killer defeated Hawkins, and Kid and Law were fighting Big Mom. They used their special abilities and managed to defeat her, but they were very exhausted. Meanwhile, in the castle, Orochi was nervous, and Hiyori revealed that she was the daughter of Kozuki Oden. Luffy and Kaido were fighting, but they both passed out. Luffy got back up and activated his Gear 4, attacking Kaido with force. Luffy used his Gear 5 and felt very powerful, attacking Kaido as if he were a toy. Junbei and Raizo tried to put out the castle's flames, and Raizo made it rain. Momonosuke managed to save the island, and Luffy defeated Kaido, but fainted from exhaustion. Momonosuke turned back into a human and became the new Shogun, promising that Wano would be a better place. Luffy, Kid, and Buggy were now new emperors, but Kid was angry and wanted to fight Luffy. Everyone was helping to rebuild Wano, and Momonosuke wanted to thank the Straw Hats, but they had already left. Luffy and Kid decided where to go, but Luffy lost a bet and had to go somewhere else. Yamato wanted to join the Straw Hats and explore Wano. When they said goodbye, Luffy joked with Momonosuke, but promised he would be fine. The Straw Hats and the Heart Pirates left together, and so ended the story of Wano. Egghead Arc. A Navy ship went to Egghead Island because Kobe, a friend, had been kidnapped by the Blackbeard pirates. The Straw Hat pirates approached the island and saw Jewelry Bonnie drowning. Jinbe, one of the pirates, saved her, but they ended up trapped on the island with Luffy and Chopper. The rest of the crew was rescued by Lilith, who introduced herself as Vegapunk. Lilith had different plans, but received a request from Shaka, another Vegapunk, to bring the Straw Hats to him, so she took the group to a laboratory where Vegapunk conducted many experiments. Shaka showed the pirates the incredible technologies of Egghead, which were even more advanced than those from a long-lost era known as the Void Century. Meanwhile, Luffy, Chopper, Jinbe, and Bonnie arrived on the island and met a giant robot named Atlas. After eating and changing into automatic clothes, a robot called a pacifista tried to capture them. Bonnie revealed that her father, Bartholomew Kuma, had a past with Vegapunk. The group ended up in a junkyard, where they found an ancient giant robot. After meeting Vegapunk, who wanted to leave the island, he teleported himself to his laboratory. The Straw Hat Pirates then encountered Lucci and the CP0 agents, who wanted to eliminate Vegapunk. Luffy and Lucci fought, and Luffy won, but CP0 later took control of a robot and planned to attack the lab. The Navy, led by Admiral Kizaru and J. Garcia Saturn, surrounded the island to prevent the pirates from escaping. Battles broke out, and the Navy decided to launch a buster call to destroy Egghead, as Luffy and Vegapunk were considered threats to the world government. Vegapunk was horrified to see his island, known as the Island of the Future, being destroyed. During the chaos, other giant pirates arrived and caused even more destruction. The situation became chaotic, and a character named Nusuro cut the lava phase in half, allowing the world government to rescue some of their captured agents. While all this was happening, a giant robot named Emmet awakened and helped the Straw Hat Pirates and the giant warrior pirates escape from Egghead Island. He used a special power called Haki to defeat many Navy soldiers and sent the 5 elders back to Mary Joas, ending the battle. Afterward, a place called Punk Records separated from the lava phase and Egghead Island. With the Egghead incident over, the Navy managed to recover many technologies that were still intact on the island. However, Edison, who had survived, activated a special plant that quickly produced many island clouds, which rose up to the lava phase. York was able to prevent the entire lab from being taken, but ended up losing Punk Records. Although York can still access the information remotely, Vegapunk's brain is now under the care of Shaka, Edison, Pythagoras, and Atlas, who are now united in a single body made from parts of their original versions. Meanwhile, Saturn died on his ship as punishment for allowing Luffy to escape. After his death, Figureland Garling was chosen as the new god warrior of science and defense, and Egghead is now under his command.